For documentation's sake, we're going to unbox this one together because, yeah, even the UPS guy, when he delivered it, was like, that doesn't look good. Add insult to injury, there's zero padding in this box. And the whole buying process of this guitar was rather interesting. It was over a course of a year. I was making an offer. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. This isn't the guitar I thought it was. He didn't send the wrong one, did he? Alright, I had to go check to make sure I had the right package. So I specifically bought this guitar because it came in a certain case, and this is not the case. So now I'm curious, is it actually the Les Paul Custom that I ordered? We're definitely going to keep the cameras rolling on this one because what on earth? This is a 1980s Gibson Lifton reissue case, which normally I would actually be happy to see. These things have decent value in and of themselves. It's got the replaced handle as is usual. But I ordered this with a different case that's even more valuable. So let's see. Oh no, it is that guitar. Okay, let's talk about this. This was the listing. It initially had a Gibson Artist Series case, which was the whole reason I bought this guitar, even though it's a little bit of a mutt that's been modified, but I wanted that Artist Series maroon case. And in fact, the seller knew that because I tried to buy the case from him at one point. But then he just said, make an offer on the guitar. And after about a year of it sitting on Reverb, I made another offer and he thought about it and he decided to go for it and apparently scammed me out of the case. But this thing was packed horribly. Let's see, how's our neck? Yeah, it's dirty. And do we have a crack? We just have a little bit of a mystery. So I will go ahead and contact him before I do anything to this guitar to figure out what we're going to do about this, Mr. Case Swapperoonier. Now, if you're just like, dude, it's a case, what's the big deal? An Artist Series case is a really rare collectible thing. Whenever I see a loose one at a good price, I always pick it up because they're just so fancy. There were 3 different versions. There's the SG Sorrento, as well as the Black Beauty Les Paul Artist case and the Oxblood Artist case. This one was supposed to have the Oxblood. It's got that red exterior with a nice matching interior. It's got the Gibson ribbon up top. They were super deluxe. The Black Beauty was the same, just different colors. But in the 1975 price guide, they were $159 brand new. Now, to put things into perspective, a regular case was around $80, so that's double the price. And even as compared to a later 1978 price guide showing the new protector cases, those were $109.50. So they were so pricey, they didn't sell too well. They actually ended up using leftover stock on things like the Les Pauls. But every so often, you'll find it with a regular guitar because somebody wanted to do that upgrade. And I love having those fancy things for really special guitars in my collection. Hence the reason I bought this guitar. And it's not here! But anyway, this is supposed to be a circa 1974-ish Les Paul Custom, but you might think, hey, this looks a little bit different. It's because somebody changed all the black plastics to cream, which looks really cool in my opinion. Really reminds me of like Ace Frehley or something. And it's got that characteristic signature 3-piece top as they were using in this era, and that beautiful tobacco sunburst just looks really nice on this. But you're still within the era when they're using the 3-piece mahogany necks right before we switched into the maple necks. We've got the volute. Now, to know the exact date of manufacture, you can't really use your serial number, but you can see somebody's upgraded our original Kluson waffle back tuners to Grovers, so that's actually a good thing as far as the playability department, but it looks like somebody might have had Schallers on it at one point too. Something's shaking around in there. Hopefully that's just a solder blob and we don't have too much of a project. But even though it's not 100% original, we've documented plenty of them that were. Like, check out the Bearded Lady episode. So let's just go ahead and appreciate this one for what it is for today, as I figure out what on earth's going on with this seller. Okay, this is easily the worst reverb purchase I've made in a long time. I started to look over this guitar and was noticing other things that I didn't like. So before I actually could suggest, what would I keep this for without the case, I decided I needed to take a deeper look into this. There is a huge crack running straight up our fretboard right here, which normally a few small cracks in your fretboard, it's not a big deal. It doesn't really affect the guitar at all. However, that's a really ugly one that has been repaired, and you can feel there's a different ridge there. Especially right here. That's bad. That needs sanded down. That was not disclosed at all. And next, sure enough, I look closely, and that appears to be a repaired crack right here, which, not a big deal. It's not as bad as a full headstock break, but that definitely impacts the value of the guitar. And the listing didn't say anything about originality, so when I pulled the pickups and saw, 57 Classics instead of the original T-tops, I was a little bit bummed, but not all that shocked. But the next thing is get a load of our screws right here. It has been replaced, because we already talked about how all the cream plastics, that's not stock to this guitar. But it looks like they went to the hardware store and just picked up whatever golden screws that they could find. And these new rings didn't quite fit over here, so they had to make new holes. But the reason I bring up the screws is this bridge pickup was not even secured. And it was even missing a screw because of that. They're just not long enough to actually get into the body, so that would need replaced. But as for our history lesson, it's mid-70s, so what we have right here is known as a transitional neck tenon. It's just slightly longer than a short neck, but fully routed for the long neck in the cavity. And everything looks good here. But as far as our 57 Classics, I get readings of 8.74 k ohms in the bridge, neck position 865, and 428 in the middle. You know what? Those might actually be early burst buckers. But you want to know what really upsets me about this whole purchase process? You remember that white paper that was inside the case when we first unboxed it? This is an inspection sheet from whatever shop that he had ended up purchasing this guitar from about 10 years ago. It lists all the replaced parts, as well as the cracks in the fretboard. He could have just took a photo of this, put it in his listing, and sold it honestly and not tried to cheat. I'm really salty about this one. Usually it's not a big deal. You send the guitar back, somebody was trying to be silly. But this was a whole year-long process, and then I try to use the knobs, and this one just doesn't work. And it's because all the gripping has just been worn away on the inside of the knob. Not a big deal, you replace it, but not functioning out of the box. Fantastic. Now let's move on to our bridge and tailpiece. Thankfully, nobody's reamed out the ABR1. However, it is a new ABR1, and they replaced the studs. Because look at this. ABR1s aren't supposed to wiggle like that. This one's a little bit more secure, but I would suggest a fill and re-drill on that. And the bridge itself is a modern day replacement, although thankfully still a Gibson branded part. The tailpiece though, that's another modern day part. It's full weight. As far as three-piece tops go, this one's actually quite beautiful. It's got its own characteristic. It is a pancake body, so the way they do that is there's a mahogany slab and then a thin slice of maple before you get mahogany again. And then before your maple top joins on, there is another one of these tiny maple slivers right before. If you know to look for that, you can see it right here in the pickup cavity. But now, moving on from our body, we can talk about our three-piece mahogany neck and ebony fretboard. We already talked about the cracks, but let's just say there was more than just that one long one. Now, what that usually is a cause of is somebody not conditioning their board, or most realistically, this guitar was stored in an attic somewhere for an extended period of time, and that caused the board to dry out and crack. Because usually they're like hardly even visible. I can understand why some people miss it. But this one, not the case. But we do still have the original bone nut, and it measures 1.696 inches. Increases to 2.03 at the 12th. First fret necked up 0.8 and 1.02 by the 12th. Best way to describe this era of neck is they're relatively thin feeling up here and small, but still C-shaped. But as you go up, they get much wider and they get a bit of heft to them. They're not giant necks by any means, even though the whole 1.02 makes it seem like that. Some guys like these, but also be aware in this era they're using very tiny fret wire. Not quite the same as true fretless wonders, but they are very narrow. There's a look at that neck profile at the first fret and the 12th fret. just a rounded C. But the good news is it doesn't look like this guitar was played that much. The frets are actually in very good condition. However, I do notice holding this neck, you can see somebody has actually sanded down the edge of the binding to give you that whole rolled binding effect. And it's actually quite comfortable. That might help explain why we have some finish loss on the neck as well. They might have just did that naturally by play, or most likely due to the fret life that's currently on this, it was done with sandpaper. Now moving on to the face of the headstock. Surprisingly, the lacquer has not aged too much. Just get your custom emblem. Our truss rod does appear to be functioning, so that's good news. And miraculously, we do still have the original Les Paul custom engraved truss rod cover. These are always cool. And just a fun fact, it has elixir strings on it. You can feel the coating. And since they were installed like a crazy person, I'm going to put them on correctly this time. There we go. That's much better. And yes, I can confirm the truss rod's still working just fine. I did remember I forgot to show you the pick guard. It's definitely not Gibson, because on the back it reads all parts. It looks pretty good right here, but once you get up here you can see, oh yeah, that's the import style clunkiness. I mean, that's got a nice look, but I mean, that looks even better to me. And putting that back on, let's just say it's not a 100% proper fit. Like, sure, it looks all right when you have it fully installed, but you kind of have to bend it down. So no wonder there's some weird stuff going on. But I noticed something about our knobs. All the other ones were about right as far as their height, but this one falls way down. So I wanted to check what was going on with that to see if we need to factor that into work. And I was actually surprised. All the pots in here still appear to be era correct and original. The caps look all right. It's basically just the pickup swapping that's gone on, as you can tell by the crazy solder work globbed up over here. But you can see 1974 date code dating to the 12th week. This one's 1973 something. It likely matches what we have over here, which is the 44th week of 73. And this one's more effort than it's worth, but uh-oh, our pickup is not actually installed to the pot. It'll probably still work, but it's not properly grounded. Possible that happened during shipping. But anyways, back to our pot over here. I thought maybe it just wasn't secured properly, but no, the whole pot is actually broken. So I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. But thankfully, it's just a tone position. Not every player utilizes those, but that's the reason why that knob sits so low. It's not just a retighten something down. Otherwise, our toggle switch cavity looks like so. And yeah, don't know why, but somebody installed a strap button there. That's really common on this era of Les Paul Custom. People will sink another strap button back here. I don't really think it has to do with balancing issues. I think it's just a personal preference type thing. Les Paul Customs are usually fairly balanced, but somebody thought it'd be good there, and then we've just moved it back up here with Schaller strap locks currently installed. Nice and dark around that edge, but then you get the light bursted effect as well as nicks and dings. I believe that has been replaced with gold as well, because in this era, they're typically plastic, but I would consider that an upgrade for a player's guitar like this. As far as buckle worming, you got a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I'm just documenting this guitar for as it is. This is a fantastic player's instrument. It's just, when all this doesn't get disclosed is when you got problems, right? I had some commenters on the last time I had issues on that eBay SG saying, hey, why are you tearing the guitar apart? Look, every single vintage store that's worth their grain of salt does this entire process when they buy a new guitar, and that is the only way to verify that all the parts are stock and original. You are afforded this luxury if you know what you're doing. Now, if you change the pickups or perform a neck reset or something, yeah, that changes things, but if you're just doing screws, you're fine. Just make sure you put them in the right way. When you take a screw out, before you put it back in, turn it to the left a little bit till you feel it fall into the initial grippings and then tighten it down. Then you're not doing any damage. But here we can see our three-piece neck. It's got some interesting colorations here. I think what this actually is the clear coat is significantly worn where the player's hands were, But there's one stripe right here that still has the original finish. Like, you can feel the difference. So I don't think that's actually coloration in the wood grain. It's just color left on the neck. The blacklight test should be a lot of fun on this one. Good. Coming to the back side of the headstock, we definitely have the modern day Grovers. Nothing wrong with that. The original Kluson Wafflebacks are garbage tuners, but they look cool. So that's what this hole is, and it also would have originally utilized that one. But the ones that are off to the side, those are Schaller, which are another fantastic tuner. But our serial number is 182340, looks like. Made in USA. This is a Kalamazoo produced guitar. Nashville was starting to open up in '74, but things like the bone nut, having the wide spacing for the 12th fret dots, as well as them actually being a tortoiseshell colored material, if you get right up in their face in the light, is one way to verify Kalamazoo production. Now our blacklight test. We can see some sweat absorption over here. Otherwise, the top's not in too bad a shape. I do want to point out that there is a finished chip right here in between our knobs. We can confirm those aren't even vintage knobs. Blacklight doesn't really tell us anything for our fretboard, but headstock looks good. Just a little bit of wear up here, chipping around the binding. Now the back side of the body, besides our strap button, looks pretty good. Look around just the edges. You can see some more of those dings. I don't think we have any repairs to speak of. No separating pancake bodies. But now the neck. I don't exactly know. So this is what the finish should look like. But there's definitely areas where disturbances have occurred. Those could be touch-ups. Then you also have something going on here. But here's what a complete wear-through area looks like. So it's not completely black like that. So something's gone on, especially right here. You can see like some weirdness. Maybe somebody had stuck a pick holder or something on there at one point. But I was really curious about this to see if there were any finished touch-ups. Doesn't look like it, but I still think those were light cracks. But again, you can see the wear through. So I would not say this one passes the blacklight test necessarily. And of course you can see the other holes we were talking about and lacquer chipping. You know, now that we're in regular lighting situations, I think somebody did actually spray a little bit of red there. Maybe there was like a stand reaction or something. Because there's so much wear on the neck, you'd think they just respray the entire thing. And then here's what that kind of funky area looks like in regular lighting. You can see there's something going on there. But all said and done, this one's really not too bad of a weight for this era. 9 pounds, 10.2 ounces. And there is this nice little chatoyant angel / butterfly thing right there in between our pickups. That's really what this guitar needs. Route it for the third humbucker, just give it all DiMarzio double creams. That would look pretty sweet. But I'm not going to do that today, so let's go ahead and see how it sounds. Let's go ahead and see what works. I would personally raise that bridge pickup just a tad, but that neck pickup sounds phenomenal. So our neck position volume does work. You just kind of have to push down on it to make sure you're getting those grips. but it is a little bit finicky. So now, neck tone. More like an on-off switch. It certainly has some variations, but it's not your usual tone control. And now bridge controls. As expected, and now the one that I'm worried about. Ironically, works better than the pot that actually looked like it would function. Just a bunch of scratchiness. Overall, though, I'd say it sounds quite nice. And it plays pretty nice, too. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed documenting this guitar. I wish I could say I did. Like, the guitar itself is cool. It's got a little bit of a troubled past in history as far as mild repairs with cracks in the sides of the neck and the fretboard. But I will admit, this thing plays fantastically. After talking with the seller, he decided he's just going to take this back. So I will go ahead and pack it up and probably use a better box to return it. And it's just the kind of guy I am, even if the seller wasn't honest. It's not the guitar's fault, right? It should have a nice, safe trip home. So I hope you enjoyed the episode anyways, and we'll catch you tomorrow on hopefully a better situation. Take care.